The miniature and the bigger guys, they're all sitting in tubs of water. And I don't mean just an inch. I mean like they're sitting in water several inches deep. And I've got roots just coming out everywhere. And they're just happy all day long. They're just still growing like gangbusters. So it's nice to know and identify species that you are less problematic to grow, because some things you just got to watch like a hawk. You got to almost be an expert to keep them alive, because they're so susceptible to different types of diseases, including root rot and that sort of thing. And if you get a tree that gets root rot, boy, it is tough to get rid of, tough to kill. There's only a couple of products really that are very effective killing it. And one other thing that I will tell you guys about, just FYI. So another little tool to put in your toolbox of things to use with bonsai. How many of you have heard of a product called wilt proof? You're a good man. Have you had a chance to use it? Yeah. It is what they call an anti-desiccant. You mix it up in a spray. It's WILT-PRUF, wilt proof. And what it does is you spray it on the top of the leaves and the bottom of the leaves, and it prevents the leaves from transpiring any moisture. And so let's say you've got a tree that is really suffering. It's in the middle of July, and you know if you repot the thing, you're going to kill it. But something's going on with the roots, maybe root rot, maybe something else, but the foliage is just telling you that, hey, there's a problem down there. You spray the foliage top and bottom with wilt proof, pull it out, bare root it, prune out the rot, do whatever you got to do, repot it. It doesn't wilt. It doesn't even know it's been touched. It lasts for about a month, which is, coincidentally, how long it takes roots to overcome transplant shock. So by the time it wears off of the leaves, the roots are fine, the roots are growing, and new leaves are popping out. We use it also for collecting different times of the year. If I've got something that, I keep it in my truck because I may run across something that I need to get, I run across, and it's the wrong time of year, and you can also get it in aerosol cans. I'll spray it with wilt proof, and done. So just another good product to know about. Oh God, it was my study group in San Antonio. Oh, it was one poor lady. Because we were doing ball cypress. It was the second year they were bringing their trees back. I'd already met with them a couple of times. This was the following year, and she drove from about a little over an hour away, wasn't it? Someplace out in the country south of San Antonio, and she had the cypress in the back of her pickup truck. By the time she got to the workshop, it's like it was half dead. All of the moisture had been sucked out of the leaves. The leaves were all just curled up, wilted, because the wind will do that, especially when you're going 75 miles an hour. Just sucks the moisture right out of the leaves. So everything was just terrible. And so, I told her, I said, look, next time we meet, get some wilt proof, spray it. When I go collecting up in Catahoula Lake, we're collecting sometimes we've collected in July and August. And I collect water elms. And I just spray the foliage with wilt proof, throw them in the back of the truck, no protection. When I get home, the leaves are just like they were when I left the lake. Yeah. No.
If you're bare rooting your tree, you dip it in the stuff, plant it, and it keeps the roots from drying out and helps improve water and nutrient
Cool.
Which works really well if you're repotting, like if you have to repot in
Yeah.
non-repotting systems.
And what's it called again?
It's called root dip. It's called soil moist root dip.
Soil moist root
And I use it
dip.
with the wilt proof
Okay.
at the same time.
Yeah. And have you ever had any bad results?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love the wilt proof.
Yeah, wilt proof's
I'm gonna have to try that too, because you can never have too many tools in your toolbox, and sometimes it makes a difference between success and failure with sometimes a cherished tree, because we all have trees that get sick from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, powder, couldn't you put like a powder that you're, couldn't you put like a mini irrigation system where you can put dry sensors and that takes water to feel it's getting dry in the roof?
What are you saying now?
So the way you lay it out,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't you put like a little mini irrigation system with the temperature sensor so that when the root is dry, it activates the water and it waters the plant?
Yeah, you can do that.
Can you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes, you know, when you're, you know, if we're talking about, you know, right now, I mean, these roots look pretty good on these things. But sometimes, like I've got one of my crepe myrtles, really the rootage is bad. Right now, I'm just working on getting all the branch structure and everything, getting it back healthy and making the hard cuts. In the spring, I'm going to start working on developing the roots, because they're terrible. Okay, but what you can do is sometimes you may need to build a whole new root system on a plant. So you know, let's take this guy for instance. Let's say that the roots were terrible here. Maybe you got one big, bless you. Maybe you got one big root over here and there's nothing at all over here. So you can come in, and you know what an air layer is? Okay, so you essentially are doing a ground layer. Sit there and you carve a channel in the area where you want roots, put rooting hormone in there, pack in some wet sphagnum moss, and then take like a little piece of hardware cloth and make like a little fence all the way around the tree, and then fill that up with soil to make sure that the sphagnum moss doesn't dry out. And then you keep that moist, that area moist and wet where that rooting hormone is. You get a whole new set of roots growing out of there. So, you know, these things are great about being able to do that kind of thing. They're real prolific, and they love water, and man, easy to take care of. Very, like I said, the only pest is aphids, where I'm at anyway. And yeah.
Yeah, I've had the medium one came up from Florida in 2020. After its first dialing, it was one branch about that long, came right up. The big one I got in 2021, and it came from Pennsylvania. But it was initially that guy just. I found out where it initially came from, and he got it from a person in Northern Ohio
Mm-hmm.
that had it in their country for a long time. The smaller one, like say, was a sucker that came up in one of my bonsai friend's yard, and he gave me a little piece, just reciprocated from some material I gave him. For both of those medium trees, they were completely defoliated at the end of July. The bigger one was twice as hairy before it got all from every branch chopped, every leaf chopped off. So they put on 5 or 6 inches of growth in the last less than 2 months. At the end, it's been a hot season of summer as well, so not the most prolific time for growing.
So, can I give you a couple of suggestions on this guy? All right. So, On the back here, so that everybody can see, or hopefully everybody can see, this is where a branch was removed, right here, okay? And it's calloused over, but it's made a knot, okay, which callus tissue will often do. These are very thin barked trees. So you typically see in bonsai books about pruning techniques that you use your concave cutter and you make this concave cut into the wood. I disagree with that when it comes to thin bark trees like Jap maples, most of the Jap maples, azaleas, crepe myrtles. What you want to do is cut that off with like some root cutters, so you make a flat cut, and then get a Dremel tool with the little sanding drum on it, and just make that area as smooth. It'll have to be a little bit bigger, but make that area very, very smooth and round contour to the shape of the trunk. Then that callus tissue doesn't have any edge to roll against, and it just creeps across, and it makes a very flat callus, and so you don't get the knots on there. The other thing, so clearly you're coming up and you're making a kind of a first branch, second branch, so great. But when you get to the top, right up in here, okay, now it becomes confusing. Okay, which is the leader? My eye is following up the trunk, very clear where the main line of the tree is. But then when I get up to this point, now which is the main leader? Is it this one? Is this the main leader? Is this the main leader? Well, the way you've got it designed, it looks like this was the main leader. Okay? The problem is now this is much too large in proportion in its location in the tree to the other branches. It's way too big. It should not be the same size as the main leader. It should be smaller. So how do we fix that? Well, there's several ways, several possibilities. One is, of course, you could just cut the whole branch off and start over, because there's dormant buds at the base of the little collar, they call it, that sits at the bottom of that branch. There's dormant buds all around that, and you could grow a new branch. But you got a lot invested in this, and of course when you do that, you got this big hole there. I had a client one time. I always pitched a fit whenever I wanted to remove, because he wanted it to look perfect all the time. There's going to be a big hole there. You're going to make a big hole in the canopy. Well, do you want a good tree or do you want a mediocre tree? Sometimes you got to do what you need to do. But you can cut it back, go into a much smaller branch, and cut off most of that. The other thing that you can do is restrain all of the growth from that branch. So as new shoots come out, as soon as they come out, pinch the tips out. And don't allow any growth here, and force all of the growth everywhere else. That way this branch doesn't increase in size while everything else is able to catch up or pass it up, including the apex. If it were me, I would think about cutting it back and going into a smaller branch as the main leader coming out. This is pretty flexible stuff. I mean, you can, but at this point, there's nothing you can do about the size. This is the same size as this, which is visually, and I'm just talking about if you want the perfect tree. And that's what we all strive for in bonsai, which we strive for perfection in our trees, at least I do. So short of cutting it off, and starting over, that's the only suggestion I would have, is just, if you're going to keep it, either maybe go into one of the other branches so that you can eliminate a lot of the vigor, and wire it into position, and you'll get really good taper coming into it. But you got to control the growth so that this doesn't thicken up any more than it already has. So other than that, you know, I mean, it's a great, great tree. And, you know, I tell people, I mean, and this is fabulous. What you can do here too is just keep, you know, keep irritating that callus tissue so that you know, fills in completely. Yeah, yeah. But, you know, great tree, great
And
tree.
I don't mind a hole because I know it will be filled in eventually.
Uh-huh, yeah,
So
yeah.
that'd be a good
Thank you so
suggestion.
much.
Okay, thank y'all.
Great.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, this was the very first, that was the main branch, like the very first branch.
Mm-hmm.